Good morning, everybody. This is Tim O'Neill and Diddy Mew and Ulrica uh, from LiveAction. I wanted to make one quick announcement this morning. Yesterday was Veterans Day. Denny and I did not get to do a LiveUX TV, and I want to thank everybody out there that runs to danger, uh, whether you're a fireman, a paramedic, a mother, running to danger as a soldier, and that is just part of it. And I want to thank everybody for that. And hope everybody has a blessed month and everybody gets through whatever trials are up now. So welcome today. We're going to hear a lot about live action. And Denny, go ahead with your introduction.
No, that was a great introduction. Thank you, Tim. I couldn't have said it better. Today is the second part of our two-part interview with LiveAction. LiveAction has been a sponsor for some time, and today we actually invited Ulrica de Fort-Menares, who's the Vice President of Product Strategy. Good morning, Ulrica.
Good morning, Danny. Good morning, Tim.
Yeah, and welcome to the show. So we had a chance to chat before the show, and here's what I understand. You joined the company about a year ago, right around the time when Cisco became an investor. But interestingly enough, you actually came from Cisco. You had a long career in networking, and has spent many. Tell us what did you do for Cisco before joining the company?
I was at Cisco for quite some time, so I've actually been on different roles. I started as a software engineer and then grew my career from there, ran engineering team, and then from there I joined the dark side. I actually went to product management.
Well, actually, my very first company, we had investment from Cisco, so I get to know a little bit about the Cisco culture. Cisco is one of those companies where product management actually has some authority. I mean, other companies are kind of different, but Cisco actually roll, product management, corporate strategy, and development together. So so it's actually a good training.
Yeah, definitely. Cisco was, like folks at Cisco were very customer focused. We cared a lot about customers, and I think that really made the difference, and allowed product managers to make good decisions when it comes to like building products to solve customer problems.
Yeah, and of course Tim and I kind of pride ourselves doing that as well. In kind of talking about Love My Tool being a advocacy site, advocates for the customer. Technology comes first. It's really the need of the customer that comes ahead of anything else. So with that in mind, if you don't mind, I know we need to talk about LiveAction today, and you have some presentation ready to kind of walk us through some of the product features and so forth. But I thought maybe before we do that, you can give us a perspective since you've been with Cisco for so long. Maybe you can give us a perspective of why a customer, someone who's been a Cisco customer, who has Cisco equipment, why would they care about LiveAction, and where does LiveAction fit from that perspective?
Yeah, maybe I should just share with you guys that before I joined Cisco, I was actually a network engineer. So being a network engineer, I was a network engineer at Canadian Pacific as well as Royal Bank of Canada. So being an engineer, network engineer, could be quite stressful. I mean, the bank business was very much dependent on, like the network, because you have branches, you have online banking, you had all these transactions that were going on in the background. So visibility was, like a very key thing to, being a network engineer. And I still remember that some of the problems, such as performance, were always the hardest problem. It would take a long time to get to the bottom of it. One time, I remember the teller machine was, a bunch of them in the West Coast in Vancouver were having performance issues, and it actually ended up costing the bank a lot of money. The challenge with performance was because there's so many parties involved. There's the network, there's the applications, there's the infrastructure, there's the database. When you try to pull all this together, it's extremely challenging. There's a lot of finger pointing, and usually the time it took to solve any performance problems were always the longest. So I think that's, one of the reasons why our products are very, appealing to our customers, is giving you that visibility, giving you that data point, allowing you to, look at a single source of information and work with, your partners that are, that may not speak your language. There's application guys, database guys. I think that's really one of the reasons why, having this visibility tool, was so appealing to the customers.
And by the way, it still is one of the most difficult jobs to do. Don't matter how many times you put it together, by the time you get to look at it, someone's changed it.
Yes, yes. And better yet, it's like my tool says A and your tool says B, and then how do you actually come together and say, okay, let's just get to the bottom of this. It's still a big challenge.
That's been something we've heard about a lot on Love My Tool, is finger pointing.
Yes.
Not in my domain, it's got to be in yours, not mine, it's his. And the one thing I love about LiveAction is it kind of brings everything into a single plane, so everybody can look at it together. So that, to me, that's, visibility. There are many definitions, but to me, being able to see it all kind of eliminates all that finger pointing.
Yeah, and it gets even more interesting with a cloud, right? Now, there's so many different types of cloud, right? First of all, there's the public cloud and private cloud. So you may not even see the infrastructure. So could you imagine now you're not even dealing with people within the same organization. Now you're dealing with people outside of the organization. And then, if you look at the, back then when I was at the bank, everything, at least the network was owned by us. And now there's internet. It's no longer, your boundary has expanded. It's no longer just about the private network that you manage, that you have visibility. Now it's about, the internet, the big wide west, which you don't even see what's going on. So the finger pointing gets even more interesting. It's not just finger pointing, among people within your organization, the application guys and the database guys, but now you have to deal with even the network, hey, the service provider network. It's just interesting. I'm just so glad that, in a way, I'm not a network engineer anymore, because it is, even more complex than before.
That was a great position.
So in a way, this at the very minimum, the graphics front end is really the common language.
Yes. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
I heard that.
Actually, Denny didn't hear it. He wrote it. I'm sorry.
At least my ancestors did.
Yeah.
So you joined the company about a year ago, and you're part of the West Coast team, right? You're part of the California team, which is kind of the customer-facing aspect of the company. The rest of them are still in Hawaii. So tell us about, and we interviewed John Smith 2 weeks ago, and interestingly, we interviewed him a year ago before the investment was in place. So tell us about the company. How has the company changed in the last 12 months? And I noticed your title is product strategy. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think, we as a company change with the, with the industry. So, we've been in the business for doing network infrastructure monitoring for a long time. But at the end of the day, the network is here to serve the business, the applications. I think one of the changes that, when we just talk about cloud, the new complexity that brought into the picture into our world, I think what's changed is, it's necessary to monitor the infrastructure because it serves your, business and your application. But I think we need to move up the stack and really look at end user experience, because at the end of the day, that's what you care. You care about what the end users see. My favorite example is, especially back then in the bank, if your link was 90% utilized, but so what? As long as it doesn't affect, the user experience, you're actually getting your money worth. And more importantly, your QoS is working. So I think it's important, to add additional metrics to be able to see what the end users see. And we're getting a lot of requests from the customers too. That is really what matters. So what's changed since, at least since I joined the company? I was very passionate about performance. Like it's not just about network performance, but it's about end user experience and the application performance. So that's what I wanted to, share with you guys today on the show, is to introduce you a new tool that we recently announced. That is really just to show you, like what, like what end user experience means to the business, and allow you to, allow you to actually, like speak the language that the business can relate to.
And we're definitely going to do that. But before we do that, the title of today's show is 5 Key Monitoring Requirements for Modern Networks. Now, of course, the word modern, the definition of modern changes, right? 10 years ago, when I started my last company, we were talking about modern network as well. But back then, it was just simple redundancy. But so if I understand you right, listen to what you said, then by modern we mean something that is less homogeneous, not necessarily just one vendor, not necessarily one partner, and not necessarily even physical. Is that about right?
Yep, that's it. Like modern means that your boundary has expanded, right? So it's not just about your managed network.
Yeah.
Not that the hybrid world, right? There's also the unmanaged network.
Yeah, and if I think then when you talk about user experience, it's a reflection of the difference in disciplines as well, right? Because back then it used to be just the network engineers, and now it's application. There's a lot of different disciplines, but in the end, everybody serves the same customer, even though they might have a different vice president. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really about the managed network and managed network. Then there's the managed applications and the unmanaged applications. Managed applications would be, critical apps that you host in your, data center. And then there's software as a service, which you do not manage the applications. And then there's also managed devices and unmanaged devices. Managed means that now I use BYOD, right? So now you're dealing with unmanaged devices, unmanaged network, and unmanaged applications. That's what I think it's really interesting. That's what I mean by modern networks.
Yes, yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so would you like to what would you like to do next?
So I think I think probably best is just to go dive right into the tool and then show you, like what we have.
Okay.
That
sounds good. Anxious to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
You guys can see it? Okay, so this is our tool. It's called LiveUX. UX stands for user experience. So what you're seeing here is, like our main dashboard. So, like the dashboard has 2 dimensions, and you think about the mental model. You have the left-hand side and then the right-hand side. The left-hand side, it's really, like showing you all the various applications. These are like tests that you care about. These are like, like whether you're hosting it in your private data center or in the public data center. That's really what the applications that your users need access. And then on the right hand side is what we call like the agents or the users, right? So think about that as like these are users that you see that they are scattered around the globe. Now like the type of metrics that we collect is we want to know about the network, we want to know about the DNS, latency time, we want to know the response time. Now, if you look at this picture, it tells you, like a story already. So I have, like I'm testing 6 different types of applications, and then at the same time, then you can see that whether they're having bad experience. And right now, things are actually pretty quiet. There's a couple of warnings. Now, we also have a concept of global agents as well as private agents. Let me explain that a little bit. Global to us means these are users that are not within your enterprise. They are out in the internet. Private would be, like users, like that. You deploy these agents close to your users. So think about a user as your virtual, these agents as your virtual users, they, do the job for you. They go and test out all these applications 24/7, closed, in all your different remote locations. So that picture really tells you, okay, so, like I am making the measurements, and if you're doing this continuously, there's an interesting side effect. And that side effect is that I establish a baseline. So I begin to understand what's normal and what's not normal. So if I click on, by the way, as I said, this is pretty quiet right now. You can always go back and look at what happened yesterday. So I actually find a time yesterday in the office that was pretty interesting, so I thought maybe I would show you. So I can change the time and see, hey, what does that picture tells me yesterday? So I'm going to go there. This is looking at, what happened yesterday in the office. See, it looks slightly different. It's not so peaceful, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday what happened was that I was sitting in the office, that's my Mac, and then I was in the office, and then I also, we also have set up tests to test out, what does it look like if I was sitting in Chicago somewhere. Global agents are virtual users that we host from LiveAction that you could just use. And you can tell that, hey, if I'm if I'm sitting here in the office, I'm having bad network experience, potentially bad DNS time and bad response time. And by the way, it looks like that, it's happening to 4 out of the 6 tests. So you can actually go and drill down. This is a LiveUX tool. You can actually go drill down and look at what happened to LiveUX from these various locations. So you can see quickly that, oh, if I'm out on the internet, I'm actually not seeing issues. The issues are only pertaining to my office. So in a couple of clicks, you actually narrow it down that the problem is internal. So if you mouse over, you can, we actually elevate some of the error messages or, error code. So I can go deep down and look at, what happened in the office yesterday. So now you're looking at, at different intervals. Every 5 minutes, we actually run the test. So you can see that, oh, I have pretty bad response time, 2 out of the twice in the hour, and these are related to, look at that, it's actually relating to DNS time. And we also have a distribution chart to help you quickly catch outlier, because if you want to look at a further time over the course of the week, it can actually tell you, if I changed it to a week, then it was, you can quickly see that what happened in the entire week from me sitting in the office, and you see that it's actually quite frequently, so it's not an outlier. So that's probably something that I would need to, dig deeper.
Absolutely, that's cool.
Now, the other cool thing is that, I'm just going to go and grab that time frame since we're looking at this time frame. By the way, you see that straight line? That's because I'm running it on my laptop. When I go home, I'm not connected. That's why you're not seeing anything. That's why you're seeing that crazy, crazy line. Nothing's happening. Okay, so let me just go back, and now looking deep down into that specific time frame. The other thing I like about it, just to prove the point that is the problem really only just happening in the office, you can start to compare, hey, let's compare the office and the agent from New Jersey. Clearly that the latency time is longer, but, but look at the response time, the difference in the response time. So, and you can actually add Dallas, you can add Chicago. You're kind of seeing that same pattern that, yep, I just confirmed that the problem is really just within that location. And I can also add the head office. You're going to see a similar pattern. So the other thing we can do is that, okay, let's look at the different paths that, going out from the office. And, let me just unclick some of this so that you can see it. Just only see the 2 paths. Okay, so this is the office, and then this is from my Mac. So you can actually see the paths that going all the way to LiveUX, that where we're hosting it in Amazon. And like you can see that there's a couple of slow links here. Now, if these guys are these guys are actually within the LiveAction network, and you can click further to look at statistics. You can drill down further. This is where we have the integration between LiveUX and the LiveAction product. You can look at QoS. You can look at link utilization. So within one, the screen actually shows you. These are the private network. If you actually mouse over, you can actually start to see that these are outside of the dome. Outside of the. Look at this one. It's actually going through the Comcast network.
Yeah, Ulrica, one question. If you were to rate communications people that would be able to use this, what level would they be? Like a level 2, level 3? I mean, would they in experience and capability? From what I see, I don't think you need to be that, I don't want to use the term smart, but you don't have to be that experienced to use something like this, because it's pretty obvious what it's showing you. So from the time you install it or your people install it, how long does it take the average company or group to really understand what they're seeing and dig into it?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, a great observation, because you notice it's me that's doing the demo. So that means that you don't really need to be a smart person to start with. You only need to be just a level 1 in a few clicks. The idea here is, like, it's just a few clicks, and any entry-level person would be able to say, oh, the problem is here, like just by red, yellow, and green. And like the experience I have is that for most customers, it takes about 10 minutes to install, less than that, and they'll actually see test results. And within a day, they kind of get the hang of it and just use it, and they could use it right away. Now, I want to add that the tool is not really like the tool that John showed you last week, because this is really about a tool to help you isolate where the problem is, to quickly identify who owns the resolution to the problem. And then you can, use your favorite tool, because you now narrow it down that the problem is really within the site. Now go and, ping my network engineer, after a few clicks, after a few minutes, go ping the network engineer and get them to look into it and use the LiveAction network performance monitoring tool to go dig deeper. That's really the idea for this tool. Remember, I was talking about earlier that there's application problems, there's network problems. You just want to be able to quickly isolate it, and that really significantly reduces your time, to get to the resolution.
Well, the first problem is screen recording, right? I mean, the first thing you have to resolve is whose problem is it? What domain does it reside in? This does it very quickly. Exactly,
it's whose problem. Let me just show you one other thing before I forget. So there's another test that we do, which is let me just quickly click on this. This is a waterfall chart that once you isolate is the network problem, or in this case, let's blame it on the application guys for a change. We can actually show you that a screen, metrics that you can actually speak to your web guys now. In this particular page, this is a waterfall. The agent is like a headless browser, so it goes and then download every single object. We have measurements like how long did it take for the DNS time, what is the full page load time, what is the time to first byte, what is the page size, how many network elements, something that you could work closely with your application guys. I think that's another benefit.
Well, also security people, because one of the first things we look for today is DNS misdirects or attacks. This would show you pretty quickly that you've got something going on in the DNS domain, and that would also help you interface with the security guy very quickly.
Absolutely. So there are two workflows, right? So let me just summarize, right? So there are two workflows that, let me go back into the last hour. So if you're troubleshooting the, a particular application, you can go down, drill down on the left-hand side, and then look at, the locations. On the contrary, if you're troubleshooting a site, then you can go down to the site and then look at the applications and then start doing, various comparison. So troubleshooting is really about eliminating where the issues are, and this is exactly the tool for you, like simple to use, quick to get to the bottom.
Yep.
So the tool is free. By the way, we are offering this, and that's a motivation that we wanted to share with you guys. The tool today is we want to share it to this community. Just sign up, and let me just quickly change to that.
So let me understand. So this particular tool is free, or is this just it's not free trial? It's free.
It's a freemium service. It is free.
Premium.
So
Okay.
I encourage you guys to use it. Let me just flip to the screen, so that way I can give you the. So this is where you sign up, or you just go to our webpage as well. So you sign up. Once you sign up, you log in, and it would take about 2 minutes for you to set it up. So you can download the private agents, or you could just simply use the global agents. There are like 15 different countries. Pick your favorite sites, and you'll see results within 5 minutes. All we're asking you is to give us feedback, because we want to make this something useful for you so that you can use all the time.
Well, Tim, can't argue with free.
No, and again, one of the things
it's a great
right?
teaching tool, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, it is. And also is that, to me, the biggest problem is always resolving the finger pointing, And then again, like she mentioned today, with virtual world, remote this, remote that, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault. It goes way outside of the corporate arena. And out to other service providers, and that's really important.
Yeah. By the way, most of our customers deploy that internally to monitor key applications that are critical. We have a customer that deploy in all the hospitals, because and they actually host that data center. A lot of the services that they offer to not just hospitals, but clinics and health providers and so on and so forth. So it becomes a very, very critical tool for them.
Especially with all the, let's just say, the unsavory behavior going on in networks.
Yes. I like it because it's easy. It's easy to use, and I don't need to read a whole stack of manual to understand how to use the tool.
Oh, come on, that's the fun of it,
For you, not for others.
Me. The one thing I also see this is, as we're pushing more and more towards behavior, users' behavior, or as Denny always tells me, the bad stuff, where people misbehave. This actually gives you a very clear indicator of what is going on. Are your applications being misused? Are your users misusing, the services that they get? Yeah, I mean, this could ultimately, evolve into even a policy, management tool.
Yes, and we also found that realized something as we built this tool. We realized that because we were having these virtual users that are doing this test for you constantly, nonstop, you quickly establish a baseline. Once you establish that baseline, then through integration with our LiveAction network performance monitoring tool, there's some very interesting use cases. It's like, right away, my UX tool realizes that there's something abnormal. You can now actually alert the LiveAction tool to say, hey, go and dig deeper into the network. Well, you're going to actually see some very, very powerful, use cases that are coming out shortly.
I'm almost convinced that there's not ever a common baseline, because it's so changing so much. But that's important, like you said, to try to find some common domain and some common baseline. And that, I mean, when I first learned about analyzers years ago, the first thing we taught everybody was do a baseline, because you're
Yes.
never going to know if you got a problem if you don't know what's good.
Exactly. And if you're trying to access an application from India versus, US, you're going to probably see pretty different response times, latency, and so on and so forth. And that's why baseline is critical. And, and baseline is also a way for us to eliminate false positives.
Hey Tim, I just have a crazy idea. I wanted to invite Ulrica back for a follow-up, and I was thinking that maybe it could be something along the line of a use case, a case study. But better than that, what do you think about inviting Tony and Paul and potentially Chris and kind of have a panel discussion after they have a chance to try this software?
Yeah,
I think that would be interesting. I think these are really interesting tool for these guys, right?
Well, also we could have LiveAction team say, hey, we got a customer that's a very big advocate. They've used it, and that's also a reward for the customer to be on something like this, and also to say, hey, this is how we deployed it.
Okay, yeah.
Every analyst has a different perspective. When you talk to Tony's a bit bite nibbles and octex guy. He's really a drill down guy, and usually when he goes in, the house is on fire, and the fire department quit, and he's trying to figure out where it is, what it is. So it would be good to get different perspectives, as you pointed out. So
yeah. Because I think one of the things that I heard Ulrica said is that they're at the time where they just want this to be available to everyone. And not just to build up a potential revenue source, but really to get more feedback from the users. So I think that might be a good idea. Well, let's work on that. So we're a little over 30 minutes, which is a good time to close the show. You have anything that you wanted to kind of summarize, Ulrica?
Yes. Yeah, just to summarize, so I think end user experience matters. And like cloud is going to, as you start to transition to cloud, I think like a lot of customers are moving, for example, Office 365 from on-premise to the cloud. So you're going to need different tools. You're going to need visibility. Just because you choose to move to the cloud, that doesn't mean that you lose your visibility. So I think that's another key, aspect. Last but not least, this is a tool that could really help you do quick triage. So those are the three things that I like you guys to remember. And last but not least, please sign up.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. If you just go to LiveAction.com, just the main site, it'll coach you to where to go to get it LiveUX. And actually, they have demos for the full product if you want. But you should try it. And from what I know of LiveAction, John Smith and the team over there, if you find something that you think should be added, or you find a problem or anything, let them know, because they're really interested in making this work. And I think everybody that has anything to do with LiveAction networks should deploy this and try to use it, because it'll show you things you're not really sure you ever saw before. And unlike you, Ulrica, I'm not a big fan of the cloud. I've seen the cloud since the 60s, not the same kind of cloud, but it was a cloud. And I just worry about our data. We're trying to protect our data, and we hand it off to people that may or may not be scrupulous. Okay, so that's always been my problem, and being a security guy is really what I do now. And I want to keep my data as my gold. It's my gold. It's my corporate gold. I like to keep it in my corporate safe. So.
Yeah, but Tim, if it was up to you, we should all be carrying Abacus.
True.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really secure, right?
Well, at least a slide rule, Denny. Okay.
All right. So, well, thank you for coming to the show, Ulrica, and it's a real pleasure meeting you. I hope you enjoy it. And Tim actually behaved today, so that's good.
Hey, he has someone smarter than me on, so I gotta be good, you know.
Smarter and prettier.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thanks, Denny.
So with that, we'll close the show. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon, and we'll see Ulrica soon, I hope.
Thanks.
Be safe. God bless all.
Thanks, Tim. Bye-bye.